specifications for test writers because in our group, this is the guiding. It can be said that the guiding star for the test writers when you want to write a better test. And the second part is about the test items with some suggestion and with some problems. And the last one will draw some conclusion our part. So the first part is about the test specifications. So what is the test specification? Is a general, according to Edison in 2007, is a generative explanatory document for the creation of a test task.
Yeah.
So it's a test.
So in normal term, we can call it a blueprint, right? A blueprint around the test. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a blueprint to follow with the test and the item writers. It is also a role as essential part of the development of the test quality. And so what should the test specifications look like? So we're going to discuss the first one, the test purpose. So we're writing the test specification, we should wrong about the test purpose. So we're going to take the test for the purpose, like to diagnose the student, or to get what the student have achieved through the achievement or the global test. The second one is about the sort of learner. So including some information about the age, the sex, about the level of proficiency or the state of learning the first language, a cultural background, and also the country of origin, or reason for taking a test. Like for some candidates, they just want to take the part for the personal interest. And the next one is about a section. How many sections in paper should the test have, and how long should they be, and how will they be differentiated? The next one is about what target language situation is envisaged for test, and is this to be simulated in some way in the test contained method? The next one is about the type text. What type of text should be chosen? It can be written or spoken form, or how difficult, how long should they be? What functions should be embodied in a text for persuasion, definition, and summarizing? Or how complex should the language be? And the sixth point is about the language skill. What language skills should be tested? It can be the macro skill or on any distinction made between the items testing main idea or specific details or inference. And the next one is about the language element. So is that going to have a list of grammatical structures, the features to be included? Is it a lesson specifying some way or frequency list? Are notions and functions speak art or pragmatic features specified? And the next one is about the short of task. What short tasks are required? Discrete point or integrity point? How many items are going to have each section is the next point to be discussed, and we're going to talk more about this item, the test item in the next part, and what are the test methods to be used? Multiple choice can be multiple choice, gap filling, matching, transformation, or short answer question or picture description. And the rubric is very important here. Rubrics to be used as instruction for candidates, like will there be any examples required to help the candidates know what is expected to do, like we usually have when we take Korean the test. And the last one, the most important thing is about the criteria. The criteria used for assessment. How important is accuracy, appropriacy, spelling, or length of utterances? So these are the 12 points when we talk about the test specification. So let's look at the reading specification. Just for example, to make us have a clearer point about specification. So I think I should move on this part. So because I'm going to give you some examples related to this reading specification. So to save time, I think that I should pass This part is okay. Don't we have two examples here about a test from the actors from the British Cultural Test is about reading comprehension, and as candidates have to choose the answer to choose the best answer with the for each blanks. And this is the changes made from revised item. And with the two items here, I would like to give some comments to save time. So this part I'm going to send you. Dạ, cái phần này cho qua luôn được không ạ? Okay, so we move on to the next part about the test item. So there are many difficulties and challenges for us to write a test item. So we move on to the next part to know more about the test item, because there are more. There's not only the question in a test, so we cannot use the word question as just we already said. So we use the word test item. So what is a test item? This is the smallest unit in that produces distinctive and meaningful information on a test or rating scale. A test item is a basic unit of observation in any test. A test item usually contains a statement that elicits a test taker response. So, from like in 1967, that the more efforts we put into building better test items, the better the test likely to be. So each test item is believed to represent a single type contained and a single type cognitive behavior. So the item is a basic unit or a building block in testing. So one way to improve a test is to examine the individual items and revise the test so that only those items are performing well remain in the revised version of the test. So how many types? We talk about the types of test item. So we have two types. The first one is the direct test items, and the second one is indirect test items. Direct test items ask the candidates to perform the cognitive skill which is being tested, and we try to be as much like real life language as possible. But indirect test items try to measure the student knowledge and ability by getting what lies beneath their receptive and reductive skill. Like, for example, the grammar translation items or transformation of paraphrase or sentence reordering to test the beneath ability from the student. So this is a table about the item development process with the 14 stages. The first one is make a plan for how items will be developed. The second one is about the schedule for the item development. The third one is to conduct an inventory of items in item bank. The fourth step is identify the number of items needed in each of these areas. The fifth one is to identify and recruit qualified subject matter expert for developing new items. Develops an item writing guide the next step, and then distribute the guide to the item writers. Conducts item writing training for these item writers. Make assignments to item writers based on inventory and evaluation of the next. Conduct the reviews, discuss and build the test supervising items, evaluate the performance of items, and the last one is to place the surviving items in the operational item bank. So we see how does the item development link to the validity, because I already discussed the specification related to the construct validity. So there are three steps, and conduct the validation. So how can we say that? Because the test score and the item response have a logical connection. The process is of defined or for validating test score interpretation and uses also applies to item responses. So we can define what an item is supposed to measure and the type cognitive behavior it elicits. So we can drive the item. What is the expectation state in a construct validation? And we can study the response to the item determine whether it behaves the way that we think it should behave. So according to Gorbach in 1971, the three essential sequential steps in validation are formulation, expectation, and validation. Here, the three steps here. The first two steps are part of the process that leading to the creation of a test. And the last one, validation. This is a process that involves collecting the validity evidence supporting the interpretation that gives a test score. For the formulation, the test score define construct item define the basic for the item in terms of its content and cognitive behavior related to the construct. But for explication, the test score is the test that in item response without taught by the item. And validation is the evidence bearing on interpretation and use of test score for a specific purpose. For test score, while the item response is evidence that bear on the interpretation and use of item response, what are the item responses in creating test score that can be validly interpreted or used? Because we see that the test items, including in the test, and sometimes the items can be said to be the test. So that's the reason why we would like to talk about how to make the test more valid, to make the items more valid. So we have four steps. The first one is to write the explicit specification at the beginning of any test, including the content, the test structure, the timing, the medium or general. Is it about a computer test or face-to-face or telephone, etc.? The techniques to be used to measure a specific skill, the material levels of performance, and scoring procedure. The second step is to, whenever feasible, use direct testing, because as we define valid, a test is said to be valid if it tests what it wants to test. And direct testing is a perfect one to test because direct testing tests what we want to test. And the third one is to make sure that the scoring responses relates directly to what is being tested. And of course, the last one is to do everything possible to make the test reliable. If the test is reliable, it cannot said to be valid. So here is it's a kind of challenging to write the test items. So we will suggest and give some suggestion on item writing with the three main overarching consideration, including keeping the question clear and question relevant, not giving away the answers, and maintaining item independence.
Okay, just a minute, Juan. Right, so far, do you have any question? I think again and again we see the ideas of, we put things together, right? When you design tests, right, we think of reliability, validity, right? And also, don't forget feasibility and other aspects, for example, the authenticity of the test, and then what possibilities. Yeah, right. Okay. So remember the 5 characteristics of a good test. Also, put things together when you design a test, keep in mind, okay, so how about this aspect and that aspect and, right. Let's move on with any questions so far. Các bạn có câu hỏi gì không? cô nghĩ là một số cái idea nó cứ lặp đi lặp lại, đúng không? Và nó sẽ chi tiết hơn. But it's very important. So this is very important that we have a text, what we say, test specifications, because, you know, we say that we design a test. It's not just one version, but the test specification can be just like the guideline for you, the blueprint for you to stick to design different versions of the test, different but equivalent versions of, you know, the test, right? So, yeah, if you have something like that, you can design, for example, 10 versions, okay? Just like an item bank. And each year you use one, right? You have to repeat exactly the same one. So it's the way, what called, the office of testing, different schools are doing. They ask us to design a test spec, at least the matrix, right? The matrix for the test, and we have to design, different versions of, of that one, and they store in the bank. So whenever it comes, right, whenever it's time to give test to the student, they just pick one, from the bank and they give to the students, right? Thì đó là các bạn biết là khi mà các trường mà họ xây dựng cái item bank, cái gọi là ngân hàng đề thi á, thì ví dụ như cái môn học đó, cái môn học A đi chẳng hạn, rồi người ta bắt giảng viên á, hoặc là trưởng bộ môn phải cung cấp cái người ta matrix, là ma trận đề thi, và hoặc là text. Đơn giản là người ta bắt đưa cái ma trận đề thi, trong đó nó có ghi các cấp độ level nè, rồi có ghi các cái content to cover, right? So and then from that one, right, different versions of a test are designed. Và dựa trên cái ma trận đó thì người ta sẽ phát triển ra thành nhiều cái đề thi. Năm nay thì tôi lấy đề A, năm kia xin lỗi, đề số 1, năm tới thì tôi bốc ngẫu nhiên đề số 3, số 4 gì đó. Right. Nên là thường người ta có một cái ngân hàng đề thi như bên trường cô là nó có 30 đề tất cộng. Người ta xoay tua, người ta chọn, rồi cái giảng viên cũng không biết là năm đó sẽ ra đề nào nữa, chỉ biết là lấy từ cái ngân hàng đề thi, có cái căn cứ là cái matrix rồi, chứ chưa có bắt xây dựng cái text spec ghê nữa, và sử dụng. Cho nên là nếu có sẵn như vậy thì giảng viên cũng sẽ đỡ cực, và cái việc mà cái đề thi này với đề thi kia nó tương đương, nó equal với nhau á, là được bảo đảm. Còn nếu mà mỗi năm mình ra một đề mà không kiểm soát chẳng hạn thì nó rất là mất công, mà nó không có một cái căn cứ rõ ràng. Thì cái text matrix, nôm na gọi là cái matrix của ma trận đề thi đó, nó sẽ giúp cho người ta tạo ra những cái đề thi khác nhau của cùng sử dụng cho cùng một mục đích, cùng một nội dung. Ok, rồi.
Hồi nãy Hoanh có nói về cái rubric và cái criteria cô, thì em không biết là hai cái đó có gì khác nhau cô?
Cái rubric criteria nó như thế này nè. Cái rubric á, là một cái description để mô tả, ví dụ như sinh viên làm được cái này rồi thể hiện được cái này thì nó được bao nhiêu đó điểm, và thấp hơn chút thì làm được những cái thứ này thì là được bao nhiêu đó điểm, thì chúng ta gọi là rubric. Nó là một cái bảng mô tả chi tiết, là nhiều từ ở trong đó. Rồi. Còn cái criteria thì nó chỉ đơn giản là ví dụ như cô chia ra nha. Ví dụ như em viết cái bài này đúng không? Phần language thì maximum của em là được language là 2 điểm, rồi chẳng hạn trên 10 ha. Language 2 điểm, phần content, right, phần content là ví dụ như 8 điểm, là 7 điểm, và cái phần format, right, references này nọ nó là 1 điểm. Thì đó là cái criteria. Nó hơi khác nhau một chút xíu thôi, nhưng mà nói chung tự chung thì nó cũng đều hướng đến là nó là một cái gì đó để người chấm bài căn cứ vô đó mà chấm điểm. Và các cái em sinh viên mà biết tìm hiểu về, biết quan tâm hơn về cái bài test của mình ấy, thì cũng sẽ nhìn vô đó để biết, để có cái hướng lại cho được tốt, để có cái hướng, ví dụ như các em sẽ để ý các em chăm chút hơn, và ví dụ như phần nội dung để các em được điểm cao hơn chẳng hạn. Đó thì đó nó sự khác nhau giữa criteria với rubric. Và một số cái criteria, cái rubric á, mà ở một số cái bài test á, như các bạn Google ở trên mạng á, thì các bạn sẽ thấy là nó, ví dụ như của IELTS nó có nguyên một cái nó gọi là cái gì scoring bands nè, nó xài những cái từ khác nhau. Scoring bands tức là ví dụ như band 1 điểm thì được làm được cái gì, band 2 làm được cái gì, mà nó chia theo criteria này, nó chia theo ví dụ chúng ta có ở trong cái phần ví dụ như các bạn nói là thi speaking thì bạn có những cái lĩnh vực nào để bạn nhìn nè, bạn có cái pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar. Có bài test thì nó ghi thêm là nó ghi đầu tiên là cái task response, task completion đó, rồi và tùy theo cái dạng bài thi, tùy theo cái level mà có một số bài thi nó ghi thêm một cái tiêu chí nữa là interactiveness, và cái cách mà tương tác nữa. Cho nên là chúng ta thấy là nói chung tự trưng cái rubric đó thường là cái bảng mô tả kỹ bằng nhiều từ, còn cái criteria nó chỉ là những cái lĩnh vực và đi kèm với nó là cái số điểm cho cái lĩnh vực đó maximum là bao nhiêu.
Thank you, teacher and class. And now we move to some problems and suggestions of the test items. Next, please. So in this part, we will discuss three main issues. The first one is general problems. The next one is objective type items, and the last one is subjective type items. For problems and solution, for each item type, we have some general problems as below. One, please. Okay. Here are full information, and now we will move into detail. The first general problem is, one please. Now let's look at this example. It is a spelling test, but in fact the requirement is to rearrange the following letter to make an English word. It means that this test tests the intelligence or ability to do anagrams or vocabulary, not speaking test. So this general problem is called to test something which is not intended. Next one, please. The next problem is testing intelligence or background knowledge, but not the language or language skill. We will find out this example in the later parts. Next one, please. And then this example, when you find the test, when you see the test, you need to answer the one first. If you cannot, you can move to the next item. It means that you will lose 2 marks instead of if there are any item you can do first, you can do.
Okay. So the answer of question number 2 somehow relates to the answer of question number 1. If you found number 1, then yeah, right.
You will lose all. Yeah. So the general problem here is the success of the answer depend on the earlier items. So we need to avoid this. And the next general problems is you will fail a test on item not because you are poor language, but because you don't understand what is requirement of the.
This is a problem with the instructions. Yeah. Okay.
So in this case, we need the instruction need to be clear. And some suggestion is that we can make the language more similar, or in some special case, the instruction will be written in the candidate mother tongue, and then an example for the student, for the candidate to understand. and then they will use the
Yeah.
to
It's good to provide an example. Sometimes people look at the example, they explain, they understand more than words in the instructions.
yeah. Next, please. Okay, so for multiple choice, look at this example. We have C with although D is the answer key, but C maybe another choice for the test taker because maybe language. So this one. In this case, we need the problem is for WS answers in the following questions, and to fix this problem, the correct answer must be genuinely correct, and every correct answer must be checked with the college before we publish the test. Next one, for this example, although C is the correct answer, but A and B is acceptable in spoken English for native speaker.
Yeah, right, okay. Như vậy là trường hợp này là có nhiều hơn một câu trả lời đúng. Và cái câu D là câu vớ vẩn đúng không? Các bạn nhìn thấy?
Yeah.
Câu D.
So in this case, we have more than one acceptable answer. So first we need to make sure that only one correct answer.
Rồi.
Next one, please. For this
Bấm luôn cái dòng trên luôn.
example, we don't need to look at the other option A, B, or C because it's
A is
never chosen,
Right.
an alternative never chosen, and to waste the time for the people to look at it.
Yeah, look at A, look at A, right? One less.
In this case, we need to make the alternative more attractive to the test taker, and the ideal for alternative answer, or so that the student can get 25% for each alternative answer. If possible, if not possible, 3 is accepted. Next one. For this example, we see that because lack of context, so soon be the shortly, but later maybe another choice for the test taker to clear about it is really wrong or not. So
Right.
in this case, it is called choice of wrong item as a conflict. Although the students are capable of the language performance, but they may choose the wrong one. So to fix it, multiple choice item need to be in context to reduce the possibility
So
of ambiguity.
for this case, it's difficult to decide whether it is or B will be the correct answer. Right. Yeah, more context could be provided. Rồi tiếp với em, mình làm nhanh hôm nay đi.
Okay, which item A, B, C, D, but here in the context, so the answer is different from the previous one. Next, please. So be careful about context-free and context-bound in the test item
Yes.
designer.
Context is very important. Next.
Next,
Yeah.
And next one. Here, look at the example. The chalk underline the closest meaning. So here, B may be but C, because it's a long description in the dictionary, so it's for the test taker to guess. So here it is for
Yeah, right. So in this case, remember the option trying to have options with the equal length, right? We don't count words but equal length. Các bạn nhớ là cái chiều dài của các cái option đó, cố gắng làm sao cho các cái option đó có cái độ dài bằng nhau, độ dài nha chứ không phải số từ nha, cái độ dài bằng nhau. Cho nên bởi vì nhiều khi cái mà mình cho dài hơn hay ngắn hơn nó có thể là cái signal cho người học hoặc distract người học, người ta chỉ ta đập vào mắt người ta và thường người ta focus vào những câu đó, người ta làm câu này. Chúng ta cẩn thận nhé. Ok.
Yeah. Problem here is for it. Yeah. And next here, you see in the answer,
article. Right.
yeah, the article in the correct, not correct part.
Yeah, sure cannot be architect, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And here the answer is surely man and animal cannot woman. Only
Yeah,
man or only animal. Yeah.
Yeah, who gets food
Yeah,
from trees? I think
Yeah.
this the student don't need to read this one, and they just for text that you describe a company, for example, don't use the real name because the real name may fall into this category. For example, if you talk about FPT or you talk about Bill Gates, right? The students may base on their, common knowledge about, a group of people or about, animal, whatever, to answer. And that doesn't show that he or she understands the text, right? So be careful. Có một cái nguyên tắc nữa là khi chúng ta nêu cái tên riêng của một công ty, một người nào đó thì các bạn nhớ là chúng ta sửa tên lại, bởi vì nếu dùng như vậy nhất là nhiều khi nó cũng dính copyright gì đấy, hay là nó tạo cái tình huống là người học có thể dựa trên những gì mà họ đã biết để trả lời chứ không cần. Ok, next one. Thì rồi cô có làm một cái đề thi cái hãng sô cô la Ghirardelli thì nó đổi thành gì đó, Ghirardelli.
Okay, for the example, it is the choice of correct answer without any reference to the reading or listening
Đúng
passage.
rồi.
So you don't need, yeah. So you don't need to read the text.
Đó. Chúng ta loại trừ cái trường hợp mà không cần đọc gì hết, mình trả lời được.
Next one here, editing task with error of omission. It means that you look at this example, we have two mistakes in this example, and two solutions here. So the text item editor needs to always answer the item before public the text and avoid sentences like the error, commission, and omission already including in the text.
Maybe for sometime, for carelessness, we may write sentences with mistakes like this. Yeah.
For true and for or yes no items here, for example, you will ask them. Louis L'Amour invented the alphabet system for the blind people, yes or no? And there are only just 50%, two options. So it's easier for the test taker to guess and to make it by chance. So to limit this case, so you need to add more items for them to guess. Maybe not given or they don't say, etc. And more demanding.
Yeah. Remember, if you choose true and false, right? It's just like multiple choice with A or B, right? And the student have 50 and 50% to get the correct answer compared to the form of multiple choice with 3 options or 4 options. So you should consider this carefully, right? So should we give the student a chance like this, or should it be? Of course, for multiple choice with more than 2 options, we have to spend more time designing the question. But for this one, just true or false, very easy to write. You just need the statement. So, right, balance, right? Yeah, the questions in the text. Right, thank you. Next. Back on to us.
For matching. Yeah, for matching, here we ask students to match must be one.
Yeah. Matching. What is the problem of matching? What is the disadvantages of matching? Who can tell me? Thúy hơn chút xíu thôi. Đúng các bạn, chứ cái matching á, người ta vẫn dùng nhưng mà yeah. So what can be the problem of matching in terms of, you know, questions and so on? Chắc cô mời yeah, cô mời Thùy Dung.
Dạ, em thấy là có một cái điểm hơi mệt về cái này, đó cũng là một cái trick mà em chỉ học trò luôn, là nếu như mà câu nào không chắc đó, mình skip qua, sau đó mình làm hết rồi, nó sẽ loại bỏ được những cái đáp án, tại vì còn lại 2 cái cuối cùng thì mình có loại bỏ những cái mà mình ví dụ như là giống như câu này thôi, thì còn một cái cuối cùng nó chắc chắn sẽ là đáp án còn lại rồi.
Đúng rồi. Cho nên là khi mà design cái dạng matching á, thì có một số cái mình để ý của người ta có design một số cái người ta làm cho học trò không có đoán được, không có chơi cái kiểu mà chữ cuối cùng là câu cuối cùng cái bên này và bên kia. Và có một cái nữa mà cô thấy là cái matching nó ảnh hưởng bởi vì cái chance mà người ta chọn câu còn lại mà đúng á, thì nó bị reduced đi. Alright. Đúng rồi. Yeah, thank you Thùy Dung. Yeah, listen to Tú. Yeah, cô mời Tú. Tú có gì nữa không Tú? Mời Tú. Tú vậy ta hay em?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. Teacher, I think that sometimes there are two suitable answers for the matching items. So, yeah.
I think you know, a good matching item shouldn't give, you know, that chance. And it's difficult. Yeah, đôi khi khó đó các bạn, matching cũng không có dễ mà ấy đâu. Thường ví dụ như người ta matching thì thường ví dụ như matching cái title với cái content đoạn này, ý là kia gì đó, chứ còn matching ví dụ như cẩn thận, matching những cái ví dụ như là vocabulary đó, nó cũng có những cái problem mà chúng ta thường thấy, ví dụ như một cái bên này chọn được 2 cái bên kia chẳng hạn, đúng không? Rồi chúng ta có thể chỉnh bằng cách là gì? How can we, you know, improve the situation? You provide more context, right? Giờ Thúy, chắc là cho bạn Dương nói trước nha.
I think the teacher should the second column will have more items than the first.
Very good. Yeah, the second column more items, or the first. Yeah, second column more items than the first one. Right. Okay. What else can we do? Mình làm gì nữa? Thank you, Dương. Thúy.
Dạ hỏi em có ý với bạn Mai rồi cô.
Vậy
Mai nói rồi.
Có một cách nữa là sao? You especially for the part that you see that one number, right, can go with 2 letters or more. You provide the context. Mình cho cái context nó rõ ràng hơn một chút. Sometimes the context is different, then it leads to, you know, the choice, correct choice. Chúng nên nhiều khi cái context cũng quan trọng lắm các bạn. Mình cũng nhắc đi nhắc lại đó. Context nhiều khi cũng là cái nghĩa như vậy, nhưng mà cái context này thì chữ này, context kia để dùng với chữ nọ. Right, như vậy thì chúng ta thể dùng nhiều cách. Mà cái matching thì cô thấy nó có một cái vấn đề là như này. Ví dụ như em, ví dụ multiple choice đi, em có 10 câu, em chọn sai một câu, những câu kia nó không ảnh hưởng gì hết. Nhưng mà matching, mình chọn sai một câu thì nó dẫn đến là gì? Nó ảnh hưởng câu khác cũng sai luôn. Các bạn hiểu không? You see that the point? Right? For example, yeah, if for example car goes with for example we have bed rest, but I choose bedroom, but I choose bedboard, right? And then the one that is supposed to go with the board cannot be with it anymore. So the participant may, end up choosing, making another mistakes. Như vậy thì sai của một chữ có khi nó ảnh hưởng đến sai của một số thì nó ảnh hưởng đến cái số kia luôn. Bởi vì mình đã chọn sai một lần thì cái thằng kia nó làm sao nó dính lại cái 2 lần chọn được thì nó chọn khác thì là sai. Cho nên là đôi khi các bạn thấy là nó liên hoàn với nhau. Domino effect. Okay, yes, matching. Có một vấn đề số vấn đề đó thì mình sẽ chọn matching. Cẩn trọng với cái loại này. Yep. Information transfer. Tiếp đi em. Đúng rồi, nãy giờ cô nói hết trơn rồi ha. Ok, và mình đi nhanh qua.
Okay, so here we have a test here, but it allows two options for answer key. On the left column, you see that two-way accepting. It's quite difficult because it's not clear. First, it's not clear about what is being tested. Second, two mistakes in, for example, in the first option, you may wrong one or two items, but the other you are right. It's difficult for the marking. For example, if you wrong about 2 or 3 letters in comparison with the one who is wrong, so it's quite difficult to decide the marking. Next, please. Okay, next one we have editing error identification in sentences or passages in multiple choice or open questions. We have, for example, we ask the test taker to list all the errors, but not tell the number, exactly what number of errors should the test taker will get. So it's quite difficult for the test taker. So in this case, you need to tell exactly what number the test taker should find out. Next, please. Okay, we have just discovered general problem, multiple choice, yes, no, true and false, and matching. Now let's move on the next part with me.
Okay, guys. Now we will move on to the gap fillings, right? So as we all know, gap filling is just a test that students are given a short passage or some words and phrases have been deleted, and the task of the student is just to restore the missing words. The deletion, that means the gap, have been selected by the test writer to test specific chosen aspect of language, such as grammar and reading comprehension. Okay. So gap filling normally they based on the authentic text or the written passages. So some problem with this gap filling exercise or test is that there is only one correct answer for each gap. So this one is quite difficult to achieve. So for we increase the reliability of marking, we need to reduce the number of alternative answers to the maximum. And we also make sure that there is no other possible answer which are not listed in the NCP. So the candidate might not be able to think the answer, not just because they have the poor language ability knowledge, but because they the words that simply do not spring into their mind. So test writer cannot anticipate this problem because when they read the text in its whole entirety and the missing words seem quite clear to them. So it is really important that the test must be tried out on the colleague or the expert and then they retest it. The third problem regarding to gap filling is that if many gaps are not easily to restore or if marking to prove to be the problem, we need a blank gap filling test might be the answer. It's like this, missing word and phrases include are in the list that are presented on the same page of the gap filling test. And there are more words in the list. There are gaps in the text. And there should be only one possible answer for each gap. The candidate should be told any word in the list might be fit in more than one gap. And the words should be listed in the alphabetical order. So a sentence or phrases sometimes equal good with or without the deleted word. This is the one problem. You can see the example below. So this one we can put it in that, right? Or without that is okay. So certain items should be confused with student and we should avoid it. So we move on to short answer question. This item is quite open-minded. We're going to have to think of the answer for themselves.
Okay, just give me a minute. When we talk about gap filling, right?
Yeah.
You see there are different times. We have gap filling. People do gap filling by counting words. For example, every 10 words, there should be a blank, all right? And also, but many other people, they choose, the blank according to their purpose, right? So I think the second one makes more sense because, it's no meaning if you just count the words and then you make a blank. But very important. We have, be careful. Don't make two blanks in the same sentence. And distance between one blank to another should be appropriate so that the candidate have some context, right? Can get some context in order to answer the question. Otherwise, it's very difficult. It's impossible, right? And a variety of format. For example, we have multiple choice with the option, right? Multiple choice with option, just similar to, gap filling with options, right? Given ABC to this blank, the other one, right? So it's a combination of multiple choice and gap filling. Mình có một cái dạng gap filling mà theo cái kiểu mà có cái cho chọn sẵn trước. Right. And we also have gap filling with a table of words that the student have to choose, right? Okay. And we also have gap filling without any provided answer, and we have to expect to be careful because the more open, right, it can it may influence the reliability of the test. Các bạn nhớ là nó càng nếu mình provide cái option đó, thì nó càng dễ chúng ta chấm. Mình để càng rộng thì càng có nhiều cái option mà mình không ngờ tới. Và như vậy thì nó ảnh hưởng cái giờ chấm như thế nào, right, vân vân. Chúng ta cẩn thận. Okay, so that's what I would like to add to gap filling.
Now we move on to short answer question. Sorry. Okay, so you can know, right? This item is quite open-minded. When the student or the candidate, they have to think of the answer for themselves. So therefore, the answer might be vary from a word or phrase or one sentence to two sentences. Okay. So some problem, candidate might not clear about what they expect of them. Like you see the example here, they ask the student to rewrite the following sentence. Start with the word provided, and the new sentence must be as close as possible the original. So to the test writer who are use teach transformation. So this item requires straightforward. Okay, keep going. Okay, so when it's word retest, most students has no idea what they are supposed to write. So the test will be clearer like this, right? They ask them to write, the conditional sentence. We write it, right? So it's better when we add at the end of the sentence some clue, right? Okay, students think.
And you know, like it's a hard work for the graders because you know the writers can write in different ways. Yeah. Actually, you know, for short answer, we can use a short answer for sentence transformation, but you can also use that for different skills like listening, speaking. Listening, writing and reading. Yeah, for whatever skills, grammar, vocabulary. Yeah, you can, you know, also use this one, right? To test vocabulary also, right? Grammar, yeah. So different kind, right? But one thing, it's difficult to grade. Yeah, it's difficult to grade. Okay, and yeah.
Okay. Conversely, some students sometimes they think they know what they are supposed to do, and they do not. For example, this item aims to test students use the present perfect tense, and the question is that just give the student only one line. Write two sentences contain sin, and when we look at some student answer are sin. This is the end of the term. I'm going on holiday. Since it was raining, they stay at home. So you can see here, there is a student, they not use the present perfect in their answer. So that means the text is not valid enough. So if item requires student to use the present perfect, it must be made clear at the instruction here. Like they give you the verb be here, and they just answer by using the correct form of the verb to be in the present perfect. Keep going. Okay. For the last part is a composition essay. So at the first side, you can see, right, writing a drum for an essay is quite easy. You just give the product drum and let the student compose the answer, right? So like this, travel, broaden the mind, transmit and discuss. And there's some problem with this one. Some students, they have no idea about the term discuss here. So they do to discuss. Do they need to justify them? Okay, going. Okay, the terminology, that means the discuss. Some students, they are not familiar with the technical use of the word discuss. They didn't know what expected to write. Okay, and some black information in this instruction in the red line you can see, and there are no word limit. That means the length, and also for whom this essay is written to. Okay, and how the essay is marked: fluency or accuracy, essay structure, good argument, grammar or vocabulary. Okay, so it's better, right? It's better when the student or the candidate they have the idea of how to approach this question. It presented in the following ways, right? Write a formal essay for you, for your teacher, right? Say
actually, you know, the advice I got from experts for my training course for the writing test is to, you know, the test designer, sometimes it can be, you know, specific like this one, right? And you know, many people think, right, maybe it is good, but sometimes, you know, some proctors may say, oh, it's, you know, too much, too complicated for, you know, even for the level of the students. So we may consider the level of the students when we, you know, we write things like this. Yeah, right. But I think it's necessary. Tôi nghĩ là cái phần này là cũng cần thiết á. Right. But they say it's up to the test designer. It's not a must. Right. So yeah, but I think the clearer the better. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Em có một cái ví dụ về là ví dụ writing. Thì rõ ràng là nó có cái đề và nó có ghi cái số chữ yêu cầu, cái độ dài của một cái essay nó chuẩn, Nhưng mà về cái criteria để tính điểm á, thì học sinh người ta mặc định học sinh khi học IELTS họ sẽ biết cái criteria để tính điểm của
Đúng rồi, đúng
IELTS
rồi.
là gì, nên mình không cần đưa những cái ví dụ như là một số 4.
Nếu mà nó đã quá quen rồi đó, nếu mà họ đã quá quen rồi thì mình không cần, tại vì ghi lên như thế này nó tùm lum, nó dạ, thay vì nó để ý vào cái đề bài thì nó đọc mấy cái này nó distract các bạn. Thì nếu mà những cái dạng bài mà chúng ta sợ là học trò quên cách làm, quên cách chấm điểm đó, thì mình đưa lên. Còn nếu mà bài trong lớp mà cứ nhiêu đó làm hoài thì mình cũng chả cần ghi như thế này. Right, okay. So it depends. Yeah.
Okay, some essay that expect students to have a wide general knowledge, like the following test: describe a legal system of your country. So that means they ask students the background about the legal system, and many might not have enough to say to be able to show their English proficiency level. So it really affect their score. So some writing tests, they ask students to use their creativity. They might not have, for example, like this: you are lost in a blizzard and describe how to try to find a way home, right?
Actually, creativity is very difficult to grade. Creativity chấm làm sao các bạn? Các bạn có thấy có bạn nào chấm được creativity không? Có thể là một số sinh viên á, thì nó có cái sự sáng tạo, nó sử dụng ngôn ngữ một cách sáng tạo thì mình thấy nhưng mà đa số các em là cũng nếu mà mình để cái này vô tiêu chí thì cẩn thận, bởi vì nó có ví dụ như cái bài thi của cái ở trong chương trình có là có phát triển creativity không thì mình mới đưa cái này vô chấm, còn không có thì mình chỉ có thể cho là bonus thôi, chứ mà các bạn đưa vô vậy á, là nó rất là kẹt á, học trò nó sẽ kiện chúng ta. Okay. Ví dụ như là môn của các bạn ở đây chẳng hạn thì tôi đưa creativity vô là một cái tiêu chí thì các bạn thấy sao? ở trong cái đề cương nó không có gọi là phát triển cái creativity của các bạn. Nhưng thực ra nha, cũng tùy cấp độ, ví dụ như cấp độ của chúng ta là master thì cái creativity nó cũng lẫn trong đó, mặc dù không có spelled out. Như ở cấp độ phổ thông chẳng hạn thì cho các em làm creativity gì đó thì có thể là các bạn cộng thêm bonus thôi, chứ các bạn đưa ra các bạn chấm mà một số điểm này nó dành cho creativity là math á. Right, okay. Nhưng mà các cấp độ master thì chúng ta có thể hiểu ngầm. Right. Còn nhiều không? Tôi nghĩ là nãy giờ. Ok, chắc là cũng khá đủ rồi.
And the author might ask to write interestingly about the subject with student might find boring or irrelevant like this. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of living at home during your time at college.
Okay.
So to prevent this problem, that means you just give students a short and easy treat basis of the text settings. That means you set the scene before writing. And you also provide some background info before writing. And sometimes you also use the picture or graph as a prompt. But however, make sure the graph easy to understand and clear enough. And picture also, right? And especially for some kind of informal letter or note. And we have to write the prompt to invent a scenario, like you ask them to write a letter to their foreign pen pal, rather than you ask them to write a letter to the Vietnamese friend, for example. So they have a reason.
It should be appropriate, meaningful. Right. Okay.
So for the conclusion, as we all know, right? So in principle, a test cannot be valid unless it is reliable. Right? So if a test does not measure something consistently, it follows that it cannot always be measuring it correctly or correctly. So however, it's quite possible for a test to be reliable invalid.
That's true. Right.
That's true. So the problem for more language tester and the test item writer is that to maximize reliability. So sometimes it's often necessary to reduce the validity.
Actually, in reality, right, we say that, for the sake of feasibility of the test, right, to be administered, we have to sacrifice, a little of validity or reliability. So, but we have to think carefully. You have to think carefully. Otherwise, yeah,
So
wrong
you mean,
information.
it quite, we speak at kind of a trade-off between the two, right? We
Yeah, right.
maximize one at the expense of the other.
Right.
So I think so what we do to maximize reliability or validity, I think it depends on the test purpose and also the consequences of the people
Yes.
or the candidate for
Right.
when they get the inaccurate result at the end. So
Yeah.
that's what we mean here. I think
Okay.
that's the end of our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Right. I think quite clear with examples and yeah, those are right. When you come, yeah, so you sit down and you design, the test, right? Yeah, those are, things that we should remember. Okay, there are problems. Yeah, and there are also ways to avoid the problems. Okay, yes.